Hello, my name is CJ Wren, and today I'm going to be showing you the top 5 tips I wish I had known starting Dorico. In this video, I hope to save you all the headaches that come along with the frequently asked questions so you can get straight to writing, composing, and arranging faster. If you like my content and you want more, please subscribe, hit that bell to enable notifications, leave a like, and let's get on with the video. The first tip we're going to cover today is about not even trying to use your mouse. Don't pick up your mouse, don't touch your mouse when trying to input or edit notes. This is a stark contrast compared to other notation softwares such as Sibelius, Finale, and MuseScore because they treat notes as something that you can grab and manipulate freely with your mouse, where in Dorico, we want to be using our keyboard to do these sorts of operations. Dorico does have the ability to use your mouse to change things such as the pitch, but it is the least efficient way once you learn these keyboard shortcuts. I recently had to use MuseScore for a class I teach, and one of the students did the arrangement MuseScore, and I was finding that if I wasn't careful, I would pick up or move notes or interact with them when I didn't mean to. It was frustrating because now that I work in Dorico presents us a specific mode or a way to get into the way to interact with notes with the keyboard, and it kind of keeps that separate when we're doing different tasks. This helps keeps the project organized and prevent unintentional changes. When interacting with notes in Dorico, there are essentially 5 main tasks that we can do using some combination of Shift, Alt, Control, and the arrow keys. So on my screen, you see I have an F selected. The first operation we are able to do is use Alt and the arrow keys left and right to move the note left or right, depending on which way you click. If you hold Shift and Alt while clicking the arrow keys either left or right, it'll either extend or shorten the note, depending on which arrow key you click. So essentially, the combination of Alt and the arrow key left or right, or Shift Alt and the arrow key left or right, either affects the rhythmic length or the rhythmic position of that note. The next keyboard type operations we can do to notes in Dorico is to change the pitch. We can do this either diatonically based on whatever key is set, we can do this chromatically, or we can do this with octaves. This is very simple to achieve because we're again using some combination of Alt, Shift, and now adding Control. If we click Alt and then up or down, it's going to change that note diatonically based on if you're going up or down, while using Alt in the up and down arrow keys. If you use Shift and Alt, it will move it chromatically up and down depending on which way you're clicking with the arrow keys. If you use Control and Alt, if you click up, it'll jump an octave, and if you click Control Alt and down, it will lower an octave. Simply put, if we use the arrow keys left and right, we're going to be editing the rhythmic position. If we use the arrow keys up and down, we're going to be editing the actual pitch. I mentioned this is one of the core elements of Dorico that differentiates itself from other softwares like MuseScore and Finale, but in Dorico, you can still use your mouse if you so desire. You can hold and drag a note up and down to different pitch values to change that pitch. I highly recommend you use the keyboard because once you use the keyboard, you will absolutely never go back. It is so much faster. The second tip in today's video is never try to physically enter res. The way Dorico works is we have this grid that is presented to us, and this is based on some rhythmic value that we set as our subdivision. The way this works is we don't actually need to enter res with a specific note value because Dorico will allow us to enter notes that we want to be there, and it will automatically fill in the res with the correct rhythmic value that we want that can be customized in different settings such as the notation options. To demonstrate this, watch how I put in this line. Instead of consciously thinking about entering a res like I enter a note, I'm simply going to move to a different position on the grid. In this example, in the second bar, I have a rest worth a dotted quarter note amount of value, but it automatically put a quarter note followed by an eighth note rest. I have my settings to prefer this, especially for this style of music, which is swing, and when I was entering this, all I had to do is navigate to where I wanted my note to start. I didn't have to manually go and enter those value of rests. This means we need to know how to navigate the grid. We can either do this using just the arrow keys left or right, and it will automatically move either to the right or left the amount of the subdivision you have set for the grid, or if you have a rhythmic value set, let's say I click 6 twice really fast to enable my dotted quarter note and I press the space bar, it'll automatically jump that amount of value. And you can do that as many times depending on whatever rhythmic value you have set. This gives you a clear advantage because instead of having to enter the correct rest values where you want them. You can just jump wherever you want and start entering notes, and it will automatically fill in the rest to look good and automatically follow the settings that you set in notation options. So now you may be wondering, what if I did want to have this quarter note rest be a dotted quarter note rest? You can't simply just click the period to have a dot. Instead, that makes a selection. So what is the answer to this? And this brings us to tip number 3, forced durations. Because Dorico automatically handles the dotting and the ties involved with your rhythms, you may want to override it occasionally, even though you can set it to be correct 99% of the time. To use forced duration, all we have to do is select what we want to set to a specific duration, press O to enable forced duration, which you see becomes highlighted over here on the left hand side toolbar. With that selected, let's make a rhythmic value selection. I'm going to make this a dotted quarter note, so I'll press 6 in period, and now you can see on the screen that quarter note and eighth note rest are now going to be that dotted quarter note rest because we can override the automatic settings that happen. On the topic of automatic processes that happen in Dorico, this brings us to tip number 4, which is working with enharmonics. This is a very simple concept to understand. If you think about MuseScore, when you enter a note, you can put an accidental on that note. That means every note in its accidental and its enharmonic spellings are independent of each other, but they do have processes to change those enharmonic spellings. This is a little different than how Dorico handles it because it treats a C sharp, a D flat, or any variation of that as one note that you can access those enharmonic spellings with a key command. This is simply achieved by selecting whatever note you want to change the enharmonic spelling of. Hold Alt or Option if you're on Mac, and you click plus or minus to change your enharmonic spelling. Notice if I click the plus twice, it moves it to a E triple flat, which is correct. I'm not sure we would want to use that, but we have the option to access those through the enharmonic spellings key commands. We can do this in the opposite direction by clicking minus, which keeps taking us down until we arrive at that B double sharp. Again, we won't want to write a B double sharp unless you really need to, but using these key commands, we can get it to be what we want if it didn't automatically figure it out. This brings me to my final tip that I think every beginner Dorico user should know right away. We're actually going to jump to the Engrave tab, and we're going to be talking about system breaks and frame breaks. To do this, we're going to be examining this alto 1 part for my song Undercover that I just wrote in the past couple weeks. If we zoom in and examine some of these signposts, which are in purple, this one says system break. System break simply means it's putting a break at whatever bar line we selected to start the next bar on the next line down. A system is referring to this whole group of measures here on the page. That is a system. This is in contrast to a frame break. Simply put, a frame break is a page break, but it's called a frame break because we interact with different greater level system elements that allows us to do less formatting overall when we're working in Dorico. But if you're just starting out, you need to just understand that a system break is to start a measure on a new line, whereas a frame break that you can see here actually starts a new page. To give an example of how a frame break works, I'm actually going to move this system over here onto the first page. Now, it might seem difficult and daunting at first, but this can simply be achieved by selecting the last bar line and the first bar line or first note, whatever is available, and click Make into Frame. It automatically groups all those measures while preserving the system breaks we already had on that page to create a frame including these measures which were previously on that other page, or as we should say, on the other frame. So to recap, a system break moves wherever you have selected down to a new line. For example, if I click this bar line and click Create System Break, that measure now gets moved down and is starting its own line. This is in contrast to a frame break, which I have set here attached to this note, which actually means a new page is going to be starting there. So to recap everything we covered in this video, we talked about not using your mouse for note input, but rather using the combination of the Alt, Shift, and Control keys with the arrow keys to interact with your notes either through rhythmic position, rhythmic value, and pitch. We also talked about using the grid instead of trying to enter explicit rests. We talked about forced durations, which helps us change the displayed duration of things when they don't automatically get put in the way we prefer. We talked about changing enharmonic spellings and how that works using the Alt key in addition to the plus and minus keys to change our enharmonic spellings. And last, we talked about music frame breaks and system breaks and how that can get get you right into formatting your parts and your score with ease. I hope you enjoyed this video covering the top 5 tips I wish I known when I was starting to use Dorico. I hope this helps you all out. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe, hit that bell to turn on notifications for my future videos, leave a like, and feel free to ask questions down in the comments. I appreciate you all for watching my videos. I have more on the way, including a video on playback using atomic horns. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.